All right, so good afternoon, everybody. It's really an honor to be able to talk about Rabbi Sacks. And I appreciate that so many people are here to really give honor to this individual who made an impact on the Jewish world like nobody who we can remember in recent times. Now, I'll begin with the joke that not everybody's going to get, okay? And Eitan will get it, and Eli will get it, and Rabbi Cowan will get it. Everybody else, no, Mickey won't get it. No, Mickey will definitely get it. This joke I heard Rabbi Sacks say recently to a writer and podcaster named Tim Ferriss, who's a very well-known podcaster, not a Jewish guy. And they were talking about how Rabbi Sacks became Rabbi Sacks, how he became a teacher, how he became a rabbi. And Rabbi Sacks told him about this meeting that he had with the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And of course, so we know there's this term rabbi, and we know there's a term Rebbe. Right, we talk about there's the Lubavitcher Rebbe. We don't call him the Lubavitcher Rabbi. Somebody might call him that, but we call him a Rebbe. Can anyone think, what's the difference between a Rebbe and a rabbi? Anyone know?
Rebbe is my rabbi?
Okay, yeah, technically rabbi is also my rabbi. Right? Like in Hebrew, Rabbi is literally my master. But when we say like a Rebbe, if he's a Rebbe or a Rebbe, what does that mean normally?
The Rebbe.
Yeah, so when we say the Rebbe, there's something like, some people will call Rebbes and some people call a rabbi. So the technical answer is that a Rebbe is normally from the Hasidic world, and they have certain followers, and they have certain, they relate to people in a certain way. We're not going to get into Hasidut now, that's beyond the pale of what we're doing here. But Rabbi Sacks was explaining to this non-Jewish guy, really well-known, successful guy, Tim Ferriss, who the Lubavitcher Rebbe was, and he said with a joke. So he said, what's the difference between a rabbi and a Rebbe? When a Rebbe speaks, everybody in the room thinks that he's speaking right to them. The words that he's saying, they just relate to my life, exactly as I am. When a rabbi speaks, everybody in the room thinks that he's speaking to the person next to him. Cue the laughter. Thank you guys, thank you. So I love that joke, even though you guys didn't necessarily get it, because I'm a rabbi, right? And we speak to people, and people sometimes they hear it's like, oh, yeah, the rabbi's telling me to do such and such, but he's really talking to this guy next to me. It's not really relevant to my life. Rabbi Sacks was a Rebbe. Now, he wasn't a Hasidic master. He was deeply influenced by Hasidut, but he was a Rebbe in that when he spoke, everyone felt he's speaking directly to me. He's speaking directly to me. And Rabbi Sacks is unique in that he was teaching Torah, gentlemen, that is speaking to our generation. Speaking to our generation. And how did he start? The famous story goes, I know Rabbi Cowan knows the story. Rabbi Sacks was a student at Cambridge, and he started to get interested about Judaism, but he wasn't particularly religious, wasn't very interested. He went to America and he hitchhiked across America when that was a thing. And he started meeting people, and he met with rabbis, and they all told him, you need to go see the Lubavitcher Rebbe. You need to see the Lubavitcher Rebbe. This is a man at that time, and probably, Rabbi Sacks is incredibly influential. The Lubavitcher Rebbe had an influence beyond anything we can possibly imagine. Finally, Rabbi Sacks he traveled to 770 Eastern Parkway in New York, where the Rebbe was. He tried to get a meeting with him. There's thousands of people trying to get a meeting with him. They said, come back, in a year and you get a meeting with him. Rabbi Sacks then went to California. Somehow, the Rebbe's secretary, and this is an incredible story, the Rebbe's secretary found out where Rabbi Sacks was. Do you know the story? Right? They found out where Rabbi Sacks was in California. They called him and they said, the Rebbe can meet you in 3 days. Rabbi Sacks then had to take a non-stop Greyhound bus from California to New York, 72 hours non-stop, to go meet with the Rebbe. And that's the sort of person who the Rebbe was, who the audience that he demanded. And Rabbi Sacks spoke to him, and he told him about his, what he's doing. And at the end, the Rebbe turned to him and he said, "No, why don't you become more of a leader, in Cambridge, in the university?" And Rabbi Sacks said, "Listen, in the situation that I find myself in, I can't really do any." The Rebbe stopped him right there, and he said, "You don't find yourself in a situation, you put yourself in a situation. And just like you put yourself in a situation where you don't see yourself as a teacher, as a leader, so too, you can put yourself in a situation where you are a leader." And it was in that moment where and that conversation, those couple of words, switched around not just this one person's life, Rabbi Sacks' life, but all of our lives. Here we had a person who then just completely absorbed everything and became one of the most incredible teachers and leaders and thinkers that our generation has ever seen. It was because the Lubavitcher Rebbe believed in him, in his abilities. The Rebbe believed in him. And they said it about the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and we say it about Rabbi Sacks as well. A good leader, what does a good leader make? Many followers. A good leader has lots of people. Oh, yeah, he's great. A great leader, what does a great leader make? Many leaders. So that was the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who made many people, who led, and that is Rabbi Sacks as well. Leadership. I believe you had other lessons on Rabbi Sacks' messages on leadership. He spoke so much about leadership, about what it means to be a leader. But Rabbi Sacks, and the reason why we're all sitting here, is because Rabbi Sacks doesn't want us to be, okay, let's just sit back. No, we need to be a leader. And I was thinking, and I was saying to my community the other day, I said, we are really at a loss here. Rabbi Sacks was so important for the Jewish people, and now we're without him. Who do we have? If you look at the rabbis, there's some really great rabbis, but there's nobody like Rabbi Sacks. This year we lost some really significant rabbis. This past week, Rabbi David Feinstein, one of the most important poskim, one second. He passed away. Rav Adin Steinsaltz, you remember, passed away. Rabbi Norman Lamb passed away this year. These are really important rabbis. Rav Nachum Rabinovich, all in the same year, in this crazy year of 2020. What's going on with this world? Who are our leaders? And so I would say, if we are going to internalize the teaching of Rabbi Sacks, who are our leaders? Well, you guys are. We have to step up. What Rabbi Sacks did, he was such an ambassador for Judaism. He was able to teach a Torah that spoke not just to Jewish people, but to the nations, to say this is what the Torah is all about in a way that people had never seen before. We all see it as true. It's yes, that's the truth. But it's only Rabbi Sacks who can make it so eloquent, so clear. And who's going to be our ambassador? We have to be. Yeah.
Isn't that why great rabbis and rabbis write books? So the fact is that you never know how great a thing is until it's gone. So henceforth, you never know how great a book is until the writer is gone.
Okay, that's an amazing point, Shai, and a really important one. I don't think we appreciated Rabbi Sacks enough. We go yeah, Rabbi Sacks, every week he's putting out incredible, high-quality Divrei Torah. Every week he's putting out amazing videos, because that's just Rabbi Sacks. And that's at least the way I felt Baruch Hashem, we're in good hands. And now we don't have him anymore. But what we do have, what we're really lucky, what do we have? We have us, and Rabbi Sacks didn't just leave us alone, didn't just let us floating off without a ship. He gave us his Torah. He wrote so much. I'm sure we could just take a moment and find a few books of Rabbi Sacks. There's so many books. Every year, this man, what was that word I used the other day? Rabbi Sacks was a prolific writer. He wrote a lot. His mind was just overflowing with ideas. We need more from him, there's no question. The loss is so great. But yet, he left all of us with tools. So the most basic thing, which every teacher I'm sure who's spoken to you about Rabbi Sacks this week, the most basic thing, what can we do to honor Rabbi Sacks? What do you think?
Learn from his books.
Pick up his books. Pick up his books and read and learn. If whatever your interest is, you can find something that will speak to you, because his mind, as Rabbi Cowan spoke about the other day at the assembly, of just how he's able to take everything from everywhere and relate it to Judaism, which is an incredible thing. I want to tell you one more story before I relate to I didn't put it up here on the board because I don't want people to be distracted. Rabbi Sacks was a big soccer supporter, although he called it football. And his team, what was his team, Eitan? Arsenal. He was a big Arsenal fan. A couple years ago, we don't remember exactly when, but a couple years ago, according to the story, the version of the story that I heard, it was just when he started off being the chief rabbi, which was in 1991, I believe. But it might have been a little bit later than that. Rabbi Sacks became friendly with the Archbishop of Canterbury, who's like the top Catholic priest in England. And the Archbishop of Canterbury was also an Arsenal supporter. And the two of them, both, these leaders in their respective religions, they both went to a game together. And it was a very, very famous thing. They went, I think it was against Manchester United. And the two of them, here you have the chief rabbi of the Commonwealth and the Archbishop of Canterbury sitting there watching a game. Surely they would win, right? The two people closest to God, if you will, right? That's how they spoke about it. What happened to Arsenal? They got destroyed, 6-2. And so the next day, the newspaper wrote, if the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Chief Rabbi of England, the people who are closest to this idea of God, their team gets drubbed, clearly there is no God. So Rabbi Sacks, being so sharp, he wrote to the newspaper, and he said, no, there is a God, only he goes for Manchester United. This is the idea of, God, believing in God, right? Rabbi Sacks spoke a lot about believing in God and what does it mean to believe in God, but Rabbi Sacks' greatest teaching is that Judaism is not so much about our belief in God, but rather what? God's belief in us. That the message of Judaism is really that God believes in human beings. God believes in the future. God believes that we have something here. So God chose human beings who can teach, who can inspire, who can lead, because he believes in us. Yes, Shai?
Isn't that kind of relating to how Rabbi Sacks said, some people find the Jewish people a nation of students and teachers?
Some people find the nation... What do you mean?
The Jewish people as a nation of students and teachers.
Yes,
they live by the Torah.
Yeah, beautiful, right? We live by the Torah, we learn by the Torah, and the Torah is there to teach us how to believe in ourselves. How to believe in ourselves. And that was one of Rabbi Sacks' most powerful messages. You guys got to believe in your ability, not just to be a good person, but also to be a leader. That if you are here, guys, I don't mean here in Yavneh, and I don't mean here in this room, I mean here on this earth. God put you here for a reason, and he believes specifically in you, in your ability to make something, to do something with this world, to heal this world. And that was a message Rabbi Sacks spoke about over and over and over again, our personal responsibility to look after this world. Now, in the remaining few minutes, does anybody have any questions? We've got 5 minutes. I want to share with you, for me, what I think is one of the most important messages by Rabbi Sacks, and there are many. Any questions? This is taken from Rabbi Sacks' commentary on the Torah. Every week he puts out these incredible Divrei Torah, and I saw that he actually wrote Divrei Torah for the rest of this year. And so his website, Covenant and Conversation, you can go to his website, rabbisacks.org, and find his Covenant and Conversation section. They'll have it for the rest of the year, which is pretty incredible. So I just want to read this for you. Okay, actually, can I get a volunteer to read? Yeah, Ari, what do you say?
Yes. God, in making human beings in his image, was creating otherness. And the bridge between self and other is conversation. Speaking and listening, when we speak, we tell others who and what we are. But when we listen, we allow others to tell us who they are. This is the supremely
revelatory.
revelatory moment. And if we can't listen to other people, then we certainly can't listen to God, whose otherness is not relative but absolute.
So we are always, without getting into all the technicalities of that, the most important way that we relate to others is by listening. You want to understand God? I thought we shortened it, didn't we? Yeah. Okay, we've got just 2 minutes, I think, or 3 minutes. The listening. How can we be in relationship with God? By learning how to listen. And this is in the Shema. I'm just going to move forward with it in order to make up for time. In the Shema, it says, V'haya im shamoa tishme'un. Right? V'haya im shamoa tishme'un. And it will be if you surely listen. Hence the urgency behind Moshe's double emphasis in this week's parsha, the opening line of the second paragraph of the Shema. If you indeed listen to my commands, to which I charge you today, to love your God and to worship him with all your heart and with all of your soul. A more forceful translation, if you listen, and I mean really listen. Listening to another human being, let alone God, is an act of opening ourselves up to a mind radically other than our own. This takes courage. It takes courage to listen, but I'm just going to paraphrase this because we don't have time. Rabbi Sacks, over and over and over again, if you think, well, what's the most important pasuk in the entire Torah? There's many theories, but we could argue it's Shema Yisrael. Listen, everybody. You want to know God? Learn how to listen. Not just hear. Okay, you hear words. Learn how to listen. This starts, guys, with listening to other people. And I mean really listen. Allow people to feel comfortable, to share their words and not to attack them, but just to listen, to respect, to understand where they're coming from, to respect their differences than yours, and then to be engaged in conversation. Doesn't mean accept everything other people do, but listen. And that is the key, Rabbi Sacks said over and over again, to real spirituality. God is speaking to us in everything, We have to learn how to listen. There's so much more that needs to be said about Rabbi Sacks. I know it was a little bit all over the place, but just to summarize, you are all leaders. You are all responsibility. You are all personally responsible for ensuring that the messages of Rabbi Sacks that are so important and so special are preserved, and you take them in your own way and communicate them to other people. There's a big gap. There's a big loss for the Jewish people. There's a big void. But now we have to look within and know that Hashem believes in us. We need to listen to other people. We need to listen to our teachers. We need to learn. And we need to believe in ourselves and our ability to take Rabbi Sacks' teachings and little by little heal the world. He's left us great tools. Now it's up to us to take them and do the rest of the work. Thanks, guys.
Guys, before we leave, I'd like to make a mezuzah.